of Studio Plum.
And I'm Shaun of Renstead Interiors. We're interior designers
Turned internet friends.
turned real life friends.
Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
We're not that hot.
Or that young.
Every week, we'll be spilling the tea on how a new generation of interior designers can run their businesses.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to meeting 2 of the Hot Young Book Club, where we're discussing The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
If you haven't already listened into the first meeting, we recommend you start there to catch up.
Today, we'll be reviewing our takeaways from chapters 3 and 4 of The Big Leap. And let's welcome back Claire Jones from Etch and Ivy Design. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Rebecca. Hi, Shaun.
Hi, and everyone who's reading along with us will also be back in 2 weeks when we dive into chapters 5 and 6. So let's jump in, guys.
Let's do it.
So these chapters were kind of, I feel like, the big meat of the big leap. Do you guys think? That's kind of a gross.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Please.
The big meat. There's a place like that in West Hollywood. Okay. Chapter 3, are you talking about the emotional work or just the content itself?
A little bit of both. I feel like I still haven't completely processed the emotional work of it, but I don't know, I felt like it helped me pinpoint really what I need to do.
Same. I felt like the first couple chapters were almost like intro, kind of explaining his idea, and then these chapters 3 and 4 were actually kind of giving us action steps, which I appreciate. I don't like these broad generalization things that I feel like some development books are full of. I need actual items that I can do and cross off my list. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't need cheerleader, you go girl stuff.
Right.
I respond to the ask yourself this question. Okay, write down your answer to that question.
Yeah.
Okay, are you doing this? Oh shit, I'm doing that. That's the type of stuff I need to push, to propel me forward, because I need to see some sort of immediate result to encourage me to keep going.
Same. I had with chapter 3, the worry chapter,
Ooh.
I had a lot of aha moments reading everything because I'm a huge worrier. But then the actual things he said to do, I think connected me more to it, made me process it more. Because I think I could have walked away after the first couple pages and been oh, I'm a worrier, kind of.
This is what I do. I'm a worrier.
Yeah.
It's my personality.
Which is what I've really thought my whole life. Anxiety for me, I don't call it worry, I obviously call it anxiety. Anxiety for me is an arm of my personality. And the way that he has described it as a block of positive energy, it made me it really changed my perspective on how I look at worry.
It's we kind of use it as a buffer of feeling happiness, which seems so weird. You're worried about bad things happening, but yet that's it's not inviting bad things, but it's stopping maybe good things or better things.
Or it's giving attention to the negative things that could happen. It's where you are putting your attention.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like you worry about stuff that's not real? Or do you feel like you worry about real things that you can't do anything about? Because that's a distinction he makes. Is this something real?
Is someone stepping on my toe or...
Yeah, or is this just oh my God, a plane could drop out of the sky and hit my house. And it's well, is this a real thing to worry about? Probably not. Can I do anything about that? Nope. Because if a plane is going to drop out of the sky, there's nothing I can do about it.
I think that's a really good question, Shaun. And I think that's kind of the definition between anxiety and kind of like obtrusive thoughts are the ones that aren't rooted, or obtrusive thoughts are like not rooted in reality, right? And those are the ones that take over your brain, like with people who have OCD, and you can't get them out of your brain. Whereas like worry is like, oh, the stomach flu's going around. Like I don't like throwing up. The stomach flu's going around. I'm really worried. I don't want to throw up.
Just checking. Rebecca, do you like throwing up?
Sometimes, actually, like when it has to happen.
Claire.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, no, she has like a phobia of it, though.
I do have an actual throw up phobia, but I think that's a good question because a lot of my stuff, it's just worrying about things that are completely out of my control. Like that, throwing up. Like I'm, other than like practicing very safe hygiene, there's not a lot you can do in terms of avoiding getting the stomach flu, right? It's either going to happen.
So rare. Like
you'd have to go full Howard Hughes hermit to avoid being around anybody with it. Like it's just how do you execute that?
Well,
this
or
is not logical.
Food poisoning, like or binge drinking, which is more commonly when I have had to. It's been a minute.
I mean, recently.
So I am not a worrier. So
You're not?
No, I'm like
I'm kind of jealous.
I'm majorly more in denial. So I'm like the other. It's also like
you don't worry about it.
Yeah, like what's the worst that could happen? Like,
have you always been that way?
Probably.
Wow.
And it's part of my 7 tendency of. I actually always look for the silver lining or the positive, to where that can be a negative because like sometimes it's not rooted in reality either. But yeah, I like had a friend, I know Claire, you're nervous about flying, and I had a friend that she was terrified of flying too. Like she was an anxious person, and I would just be, and we had to go on a trip together, and I would just be like, seriously, if the plane drops out of the sky, like, what are we going to do? Like, that's it. That's our time.
No.
And then she was at peace. And then she was okay.
I don't like her. No. Well, I think being next to me helped because I'm not, like, adding
You weren't worrying.
No. Like, I have a pretty, like, even keel with that kind of stuff, and I can be calming. But, I don't know. Like, that's just my attitude. Like, if it's my time, it's my time. Like, I hope I go quickly. Like, I don't want to be in pain or freaked out, but.
Do you worry, or I guess, Rebecca, from your perspective, you're not necessarily worrying about things in your business then either? Or is that just in your personal
my thing is
life?
Everything is going to work out. Like, that is, like, honestly, my true philosophy. I'm going to be okay, and it's going to work out.
I mean, I'm not going to be dead is kind of the way I try to approach stuff. Like, I've gained some kumbaya experience in my life since, like, in the journey to, like, going back to design school, becoming an adult, like, having loss in my family. Those sort of events have made me realize, like, well, I'm still here, and this event is likely not going to be the thing that does that. And I'm like, well, I'll find somewhere to live. I will have family who will look after me if I absolutely had to, which is kind of a nice thing to rely on. But I've always gone back to that of saying, like, I can't control this either in my personal life or in my professional life. And even in business, I'm like, well, it's more like, what can I control? Like, if inquiries have been slow, okay, I'm going to put more time into my social media strategy and my blogging strategy. And I'm going to continue to do those things because I can't control directly who's picking up the phone to call me and ask for a job. Like, I think really,
I don't like to think when I have been, I mean, I've had anxiety and I've been stressed and worried about very specific things. But I really try to reel it in, and it's like, Anna and Frozen 2, like, do the next right thing. Like, that's where I get really micro with it, where I just, like, don't look at the end because you don't know where that road's going. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. This situation sucks. I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do, but I know the next right thing is to get out of bed today. Phone a friend, like, get really like small with it.
Like finish a task.
Take
One
a
little
shower.
thing. Yeah. Hey,
Okay.
Yes.
It's so interesting hearing that from you guys, because I feel like I'm a little bit of a mix, like in my life, my general life. I'm definitely like a look on the brighter side of things. Like I'm a generally positive person. I have safety nets. All of that stuff. Like I have a stable, secure life, and that I've always been very grateful for. But then, so it's kind of like what he says in the book. Then I go like looking for blocks in my work, and
you open.
I totally do. And like, I'm like Rebecca in that I think everything will work out in terms of clients always coming to me. Like whenever I like, even now I'm like wrapping up a couple of projects and I'm like, ooh, what? I'm kind of looking forward to like 3 months. And the minute I start thinking that, a former client reached out and she's like, we just bought a new house. We're remodeling it. We need you. Like, so somehow that always works out for me. And it's actually something I've discussed with my mom, who was a business owner. And she said, you just have to always trust that the right clients are going to come at the right time. And you can't operate from that place of worry that how are you going to pay your bills and all this. You have to operate from a more confident place. And so that I'm fine with. The little nitty gritty of the project, worrying about when this comes in, is it going to be correct? Stuff like that. That stuff kind of keeps me up at night, to be honest, because I am like a recovering perfectionist, and I'm very critical, and I operate striving for like a high level of excellence, and I beat myself up when I know I could have done better. And so I worry about every little piece. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I know
like to try to stick the landing. You're like going through every aspect of it until you get there.
We probably all have those moments. Yeah. I mean, it's just about, I think what I was taking away from what he's saying is, how often are we going to let those sleepless nights control us? Like, I don't think he's ever said the goal, or I'm not picking up that the goal is to not have these problems. It's to limit how much we let them control us or let them stop us from receiving positivity. And Claire, to your point of like parts of projects, always like worrying about them, I think part of that is you wanting them to be beautiful and to be amazing and to meet the expectations that you've built up for you and for your clients. And I think that I mean, part of that is a reasonable pressure of like, I want to meet the expectations of my clients. So I am worried about, is this going to be the right fit, the right scale, the right whatever for a design? That's
I think
what we
it's
do.
Part of what we do when it feels like part of the creative process. Like to me, I can be fixated on something, but it feels different than worry or anxiety, where I'm like in this creative zone of like, oh, how am I going to do this? What color? Like, and I can stay up like thinking like that, but
like the logistics of it, you're worrying about.
Well, worry versus, I guess, creativity, because creativity can keep me up at night, or but that feels more like flow and living more in the zone of excellence, genius.
Yeah, like you just can't let it go.
I can't sleep until I get this out. Like it's, but it feels good. Yeah, I wonder, like his question of, is there action I can do to make a positive difference when it comes to a specific worry? Like maybe that's just on your to-do list. Like each item, is there some action you can take? Like ask the vendor for progress photos, or I don't know. Or just if the answer is no, like it's completely out of your hands. You ordered the drapery, you can't do anything. And
I'm
put
super
a calendar
worried.
Update. Like worry about this in 2 weeks. Like you can maybe set that as a date. Yeah.
Right.
I've been really worried about, just like the example that jumped at me when I was reading through it was, I'm working on this custom vanity for a bathroom. I really want it to be amazing for the client. It's going to be cool. But I'm super worried about like where everything will line up as far as like the plumbing, the valves, the like all that stuff. And that's truly like where the cabinet maker's in his zone of genius. But I've been so worried about it. And while I was reading this, I realized that I had only sent him the spec sheets for the sinks because he had started working on on all of this very early. And he was like, just let me know what the sinks are going to be. I'll use the spec sheet from the sink and build around them. And then as we've gotten further into the design process, well, now the sinks are actually like, he has the kitchen sink for the kitchen part of the project to make sure all the fit and finish is great when he does that. I never got the vessels to him for the bathroom vanity. And I'm like, oh, well, I just need to get those over there so he can do like a dry fit. If I'm still so worried about something not working out perfectly.
It's
and I'm like,
probably because of my
that.
one room challenge when I had the spec sheets were incorrect on the manufacturer website.
That's kind of like where I've been thinking about it. I'm like, gosh, I hope that vanity comes out great. And every time I do a site visit, I like double check my measurements again. And I'm like, okay, stop this. Like, what could I, like, as I'm reading, I was like, one thing I could do to make it even more like even easier on myself is just like, don't just drop the vessels off, get them off to his shop. Mm-hmm. He will have them. And then he's not done yet. So he still has time to work around something, but I just have to do something about it is kind of where
or talk it through with him. Like, I just need to make sure I'm thinking this through right.
And that's kind of where I know we're all going to have experiences like that. And I need to clear that out of my mind because it's pervasive. It will keep coming back until it goes wrong or it works out perfectly at installation. I'm going to worry about it. Well, why do I want to drag that on for weeks? Like, just, I need to clear it out so I can move on to the other great things and make space for them.
But it's also like, if you think of it as a trigger or a sign of a upper limit happening, like to try to like peek behind what that is. Like, are you nervous because this is going to be an amazing bathroom and this is going to like set the bar pretty high, and it's like probably a big project for your portfolio.
And I want it to be like, I'm trying not to put that pressure on myself, but I recognize that pressure is there of like, oh, this project has a lot of unique and custom things. And it's like a new
pressure,
stretch.
Shaun. It's actually there. Like, it's going to happen unless you do something to
unless I sabotage it. Yeah. Unless I stop it by not. So for me, it's like, do everything that I actually can do to help it be its fullest potential, instead of worrying about it and realizing, like, again, going back to the first meeting of the book club, doing something to stop it from being the best it can be. And
which includes the process. Like, part of this is like, enjoy working on a successful project. Right. Like, this doesn't need to feel shitty to get something amazing.
Exactly.
So to tie that to the book, there was one line he said, saying that I need to overcome thousands of years of programming that adversity is a constant requirement of existence. That basically we can enjoy all of our blessings and enjoy all the good things in our life and not constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like we talked about last week. Like, enjoy the creative process, enjoy your project.
Like, we assume we have to suffer in order to have good things.
Especially right now, like, I keep catching myself with people. I'm having conversation with somebody and they're like, how are things going? And I'm like, actually, they're going really good. Like, this is a really great time for my specific industry as far as growth and work. And I know it's not for everybody, but I don't think I should have to feel miserable because other people are suffering. I'm not going to be like, I'm going to read the room, obviously, but I don't know. We can still enjoy, like, we got fucked in 2008. So, like, this, you know, like.
Look, you're not over here becoming Jeff Bezos just because you're having some success during this quarantine, like, and coronavirus. Like, people care about their homes, and finally there's some additional value that people are recognizing is offered by our industry and what you do. And why should you feel bad about that? In the same way that people are like, oh, we should have been so grateful for doctors, and we've never been so grateful for food service people before because we never thought about it. And it's like,
right.
well, I shouldn't
So it's
feel
that
bad
like
about
deflecting and like but I guess what I mean is like thinking about it, being respectful, but also don't block the goodness and the good energy that's coming towards you.
Mm-hmm.
Be like polite and respectful, but don't deflect when things
and that is
are
the
good.
deflection of like, oh, well, actually, like that's you apologizing for things being good.
Yeah, it's apologizing for privilege when there's other things you can be doing with that privilege that are actually helpful.
And with the deflecting, I really recognize that in myself.
Me too.
In terms of my projects. Like I did an install last week at a nail salon, and Christine, our eyebrow person, stopped by, Rebecca, and she was like,
that girl.
raving and like, this is huge, Claire. Oh my God, this is amazing, right? Like that. And I was like, and I kept deflecting her. Like I could, in the moment, I knew I was doing it. I was like, oh, I don't even know how to take all of this, like I can't. And everyone who walks into the nail salon says like really nice things. And I think because it's on a level, I mean, it's a very public space, which is, I do residential. And so it's so for public consumption that and people haven't even, like the public haven't even come to this nail salon yet. And I'm already like almost putting a shield of deflection up because I can't absorb it, which.
Don't do it.
When I read that in the book, I was like, oh my God, I need to say, and I think the way he phrased it, like that he like phrases responses where you can deflect and still recognize that like he's, one thing was, thank you. I appreciate you for saying that. I'm when this guy did a good presentation, I'm glad it came across well because I felt bad about running out of time. Like you can still kind of, because I probably would have said something like that, like, damn, I really wanted to finish. I didn't, whatever. So,
or it's just
thinking
and recognizing it.
Thank you. This was a really fun project. I'm really grateful for my client for letting us go so bold or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't usually work on projects like this. This was a really great way to try something new. Like,
yeah, I need to think of a good response. Like, thank you. Yes.
It's like the gracious acceptance speech, but still owning that, like, you won.
Right.
I'm up here for a reason.
Right. I mean, I really struggle with deflection, but I started getting annoyed when I started realizing, like, when people, like, if you said, like, oh, your hair looks cute today, and someone's like, oh, it's a total mess, and they, like, blew it out, like,
spent time on it.
So I don't want to come off like that, and it's like, don't make the other person feel like they just did something wrong. So it's also, like, more gracious to just accept their compliment because they spent the energy to give it to you.
That's outfit so is beautiful. This old thing,
like, it's more polite to accept it.
There's nothing better when you give a compliment, because I like to give compliments to strangers a lot. There's nothing better to see someone receive your compliment and see it affect them positively. And so
they light up.
Yes. So if you could do that in your response when someone gives you a compliment, like,
then they get that from you of knowing positively, like, oh, when I give someone a compliment, then they're happy. That's my reward, is I see them light up. I see them be excited about it. And
assume they mean it and just take it. Yeah. Like, I'm starting to say more, if somebody says something nice, thank you, I really appreciate you saying that, because I do. Not just like, lets me take it, thank them, and like, I don't need to over explain or minimize or talk about all the things that I don't like about whatever it is.
I know. Talk about all the critical stuff that's going on in your brain. So,
speaking of critical stuff, like the squabbling one. Well, because criticism, there's two parts of this. It was criticism and blame, where it talks about like how it's costly to our relationships and trying to like challenge ourselves to stop criticism. And I feel like for me, I was thinking of that of like, oh, I saw that in past personal relationships, not business relationships. And I was realizing like, it really wasn't about something I was trying to criticize in the other person. It was, there were signs that those people were not the right person for me. And so I see that. And then also there are times, I think every couple realistically has times where you like criticize something of your significant other, where you're like, why are you constantly like overfilling the trash can? Like, just take it out. Don't try to cram more stuff in there. And I realized like, oh, well, that's not really helping. Like, I don't need to criticize that in that example. Like, I don't need to criticize overfilling it. It could just be like, I could take it out, or I could say, would you mind taking that out? Like, I don't need to.
Do me a big favor. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to add criticism on top of the issue.
Yeah.
And I like where he says, like, if you think that one of your behaviors is an addiction that you can't stop, whether it's worrying or criticism, it's like, try to stop it for just one day. And if you can't, it's probably an addiction. It's not just a habit that you can choose to drop at any time. You're addicted to doing that every day. And criticism and blame and squabbling stood out as something where it was like, those are things that people become addicted to in interactions. That's their pattern. Oh, we're just like that. That's how our relationship is.
We all know the couple where all they do is fucking critique each other, and it's so
and fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so uncomfortable to be in that room with them.
Yes.
I do want to say I love Gay, but when he said he hasn't had an argument with his wife,
oh my god,
bullshit,
years, statements like that, I'm like, you're just made this unrelatable.
No, because then he goes, because here's what I say to that. They're the couple who, they're the couple that says, we're not having an argument. We're having a discussion.
Yes.
Nope. Forget you, buddy. Yeah. No, I don't believe that bull crap.
Maybe they are when they're hanging out with his several billionaire friends or what.
Oh, I'm so glad you just said that, because I literally wrote a remark where I said, is anyone else bothered by how he has to keep sharing stories about millionaires and billionaires? Because I don't feel like this is making it relatable unless his goal is to get a reader to imagine being a millionaire and a billionaire by taking their big leap. Otherwise,
I wonder if it's like a time, like this is 2009 that he wrote it, so it feels like a time and place a little bit, like 2009.
Like aspiration.
And like we're like more critical of like extreme wealth right now, and I don't know.
Ooh, that's
I agree with that.
I still felt like it's a little out of tune.
I totally agree. Yeah.
The examples are like, I'm sorry, but the example at the beginning of chapter 3 was so fucking stupid that we have a billionaire worrying because his wife
about toilet paper,
expensive toilet paper. Like, unless Hermes makes a toilet paper, I think you can afford toilet paper.
Like,
right?
You couldn't do that fast math? Yeah.
I mean, I don't think she's wiping her ass with Chanel. I think you're okay. No, that like really, but and so it made me think, like, is that really true? Like, are there billionaires who would really worry about stuff like that? And
probably.
I know that once you become a millionaire, billionaire, you still have money stress.
Yeah.
But that just seems like such a, I don't know.
I mean, I think it just it underscored the real issue was just like, it was a big leap for that to lead to like, oh, we have money, but I don't feel like I deserve love. Like,
yeah,
I know a lot of people got issues, and
the money's not going to cure it.
But for me, that was a big stretch to be like, we have, like, I want to criticize my wife to start fights because I don't feel like I deserve love because that's how my family was over toilet paper. I was not here for that. I was not here for that. That was like, who the hell is this guy that he's going to pick fights with his wife over toilet paper because he feels like he doesn't deserve love? Like, and then I was like, well, this is why he gets paid really big money, because these people got that's a real issue right there. Like, that is a deep-seated, like, you need deep therapy sessions if
Agreed.
Not feeling like you deserve love because of your family led you to starting fights about toilet paper.
But don't you think, like, you could probably, like, drill into your, like, little, either whether they're squabbles or internal annoyances with your spouses that are like, I mean, like, Terry buys toothpaste, I swear, every freaking time he goes to the store, and we have just toothpaste
20 tubes.
And so it's now we've treated it as a joke and sarcasm, but like,
I
don't know, some of these things are just like, why does it bother me? Like, we have storage for all the toothpaste. Like,
I think you just It's probably going down to
It's a
like
habit.
we don't need it, so why are you still buying it if we don't need it yet? And
But we all buy
it.
lots of things we don't need.
Right.
Like,
so why are you
fixate
picking that
on it.
one thing instead of like he's not criticizing when you have an empty Starbucks cup in the trash going, you didn't need Starbucks.
Actually,
unless he is.
Ooh, squabbling.
not in the trash, but he has a joke like,
oh, you went for lunch today?
No, like I'll leave my coffee out and I'll fill it up, or I'll heat it up, like 5 times like a mom.
Okay.
And sometimes he'll throw it out and it'll be like my last like bit of coffee and I don't want to make it. So now he'll have a joke if I leave the coffee mug and he comes home from work like 10 hours later. Hey, you can heat this up? Like, so the coffee is.
Actually, that's a sensitive issue in our household where it's like, who touched my cheese? There's a book called, I think, Who Moved My Cheese is the name of the book. Did you guys ever? Okay, so it's that, but we joke about that of like, if I'm literally touching, I'm still using it and I will walk away for a second. And from last week's discussion, you guys know that my husband, Shaun, he likes doing things for people as the way he shows his love language. So he'll like grab something to put it in the trash or in the recycling or like a dish towel. And then he's like going to go put it to like in the laundry. And I'm like, I just used that and there's no other clean towel. And then he's like, oh, I was just trying to help. And then I'm like, yeah, well, you moved my cheese. Like,
and then it's like, I can't do anything right. Fine. I'm never going to do anything good. That's
and like I'm like, can you just get me another towel? If you take a towel, can you give a towel so I have one? Like we jokingly sometimes call him Bette Midler, Kate Middleton. We have a couple of them. We have a few of them because he likes, it's like that idea of meddling, like getting involved in things that you don't need to do, but that's how he shows love. But I wouldn't say those create squabbles. We're not really like trying to create a victim in this scenario, but it makes me consciously aware of like, oh, well, that's a form of criticism to do that, where I could just, instead of criticizing it, just say, can you bring me another towel? I know that, thank you for taking the other one. And I did think, I always assume I'm being criticized.
I always assume I'm being criticized by that kind of stuff. So that's something that Terry and I argue about.
That's your victim thing right there.
It's like blame and criticism was more towards myself. Like I don't like to point fingers at other people, but I usually will accept responsibility as I fucked that up again.
So that's you accepting the role of the victim and creating the role of someone else as the aggressor, which he talks about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where it's like you have to consent to be
because if he says, are you done with this coffee? I'm like, yes, fine, I'm done. And he's just like, I was just gonna
I can see this whole scene.
Yep. Yes.
God, why are you always gonna criticize me? He's like, I literally just asked you.
I don't care whether you want the last swill of this coffee. Like, take it. Fine.
See, I can take tons of criticism because anything that anyone has ever said to me, I've definitely thought worse in my head. Like I'm really like self-aware and probably overly critical of myself that there's nothing, I don't think that anyone could tell me that I would be like offended or hurt or whatever.
Do you know what your Enneagram is?
I didn't know that. Like,
Do you know what your Enneagram is? Are you a 1?
I don't identify with any of them.
Oh.
So I've had a hard problem. I've tested when I tested, I got 3 different ones. It was like 1, 6, and something on it, I think. 1 is that really self-criticize. That's what Terry's a 1. So the whole thing is like no one will criticize me as much as so like I can take feedback like nobody's business. I can also fucking give feedback, let me tell you. And that's my problem. Like, I'm critical myself. I'm fucking critical of you too. And I will tell you. Like, I'm also someone...
Oh, you want to talk about mamas?
Yeah. But it won't be in retaliation. It won't be like, oh, you said that about me, I'm going to say this about you. It's not tit for tat like that for me. It's more like I offer feedback on a pretty consistent basis. My standards are high. Let me tell you what they are. Exactly. Like, and then I need these needs to be met. You're not meeting them. Like, I don't know. It works for me and my marriage. If you say it like that, yeah.
If you try, I don't know. I try to keep emotion
That's
out of it
clear
when
and
stuff like
direct.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, but then that's then a whole other level of the book where he talks about like part of this is also showing the emotion of it, because sometimes that's what other people need to see. I did pause when he talked about looking at responsibility as, instead of it's a one pie for everybody to split, it's that it's everybody has their own one whole pie, and everybody has to accept 100% of their own. So if like it's the three of us in a situation,
there's
Rebecca has 100%, Claire has 100%, and Shaun has 100%. And I was like, ooh, that's an interesting way. It's not, this was 80% your fault and 20% mine. It's, I'm 100% responsible for all of my actions, and someone else is 100% responsible for all of theirs, and we just need to meet that.
What he didn't say with that, though, is like, if I think back on like long-standing kind of like hurts that I still maybe carry from the past, and I realized and recognized that I haven't taken 100%, like I'm still like mentally blaming. But he didn't say like, so if I own 100% that was all my responsibility, of course my actions were, but the whole experience, it seemed like he wants you to own. How you deal with the fact that the other person didn't or won't, or
I feel like it only works out if you both take 100%.
If all parties accept
right?
it.
Yeah.
Well, then otherwise you end up with the like many thousands of years of war.
Right.
Like,
wait, can we talk about the sickness of it all?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It killed me. How he said, so the upper limit problem, when we reach a big goal, we'll self-sabotage and get sick or have an accident.
Yeah.
And he said that he hasn't had a cold or flu in 13 years because he doesn't have an upper limit problem.
I call bullshit again.
Fights with his wife.
You can't say this kind of stuff.
How about he just has that like space age utopian healthcare that all these uber wealthy people have, and that's why he doesn't.
Yeah, he gets like IV infusions every day.
I don't know. He's getting like baby cells injected. I don't know. Like,
okay, but on the other side of that, like I was starting to think about this because I have been feeling kind of accident prone lately, and remember a few weeks ago when I was on my trip, I fell and like really hurt my hand, and because I was trying to, like, he's like, not everything is, but if you can kind of like look under, like, is there potential for it? So I started thinking about that day that I fell, and I was actually, Shaun, that was a day that you and I were working on some ideas for the podcast, and like ways of kind of leveling up, and I don't know. So I was very focused on
you hurting your hand didn't
too.
stop you from
Stop me from working
stopping
on it.
Those. Well, for that day it did, maybe
we weren't ready to go there.
But we really haven't worked on it since. Like I had a lot of momentum, like mentally.
That's true, yeah. And but part of that was you were in a separate space, you were out of your home environment, and I know that you're really productive when you do that. So maybe that was sabotage of like,
I mean, it's my right hand that I couldn't.
You had all that movement and momentum building. I also saw that as like, maybe you should be taking a break to spend more time with your family during that trip instead of working on work. Because I was shocked that you wanted to do that while you were there. And you were like, they went to Target, quick, let's do work. And I was like, does she really want to do work on her vacation? Like, I was shocked, but maybe that's the universe in multiple ways.
It's also times of quarantine where I feel like I have to like catch and grab time alone.
Yeah, that's true.
But I also know there is some work addiction in there too.
Yeah, I usually have noticed times of like being sick or just not being well, like after a really big project where I think I've like pushed. I always talk about like this huge mind body link where when you're your mind knows that you need to get through a major task with a lot of expectations, like finishing an install or whatever, and then I get like a cold immediately after. I used to think like, oh, that's more of a symptom of like I put myself through a lot of stress and anxiety and pressure, and then my mind was pushing my body through that illness until it was done, and then my body is done, and it then accepts getting sick after. Like
it's depleted.
My mind was able to push my body through it until the task was done. And I feel like
why do you have to get sick? Like, I mean, I agree. I think that way too. But now I'm like, does that mean that I just can't enjoy the glory of finishing a big task or accomplishment?
Or do you guys get sick when you go on vacation?
Challenge?
I don't.
I know people who do.
I know a lot of people
who do too.
And for me, that's the sign they waited too long. Like you were already at your limit by the time you got a vacation. Like you were already gone.
Or they just can't enjoy it. Like they're just blocking enjoying.
They're not.
So now they have an awful vacation, and they're like, oh, vacation was so terrible, and this, and I was sick, and then my family was this, and it's like you couldn't just enjoy being on vacation and not working.
And then you get to do squabbling and blame and deflect.
All of it. I think that's the just stop of it all was like, I reflected on being in pain, like physically and emotionally, being stressed out when I was kind of towards the end of my banking career, and recognized that I was overstressed. I was having headaches. I was like pre-hypertensive with my blood pressure. And the doctor was telling me like, we need to put you on medication or something's got to give. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And that was sort of like the impetus for, I need to leave this job. I need to pull off the Band-Aid and get into my design career. Like I was in my senior year of school in design school. And I was like, I'm still stuck in this banking career. And so I took the illness, the sickness as the symptom of needing to leave, needing to make, in that case, that was a big leap then to do that. Yeah. And I was like grinding my teeth, the whole, like everything. If the universe could have given me more signs, it would have been hitting me with a car. Like,
well, that's because your brain or your body's like, okay, brain is not working. Like you're not like.
I've been trying to tell you for months. Like,
so let's get this show on the road, buddy.
Absolutely, totally. Should we dive into chapter 4 yet, or do you guys want to talk more about?
Well, I want to talk about the last thing with chapter 3 with the wholeness.
Like integrity.
And discovering your story. Like he asked the question, are there old family stories that tell you why you shouldn't access your genius? And I was thinking about it because I didn't see like a direct story of like you shouldn't succeed or whatever. But
cousin Bill tried to be a designer once and look what happened to him. Like,
yeah, but I did start thinking that there are many creative people in my family. Like my grandfather was super creative and he was an artist and a photographer, but never had any kind of like financial success. Both my parents are creative, but they basically, what I realized is that with all the creativity in my family, no one has made any money off of it.
Oh.
Not necessarily that they were failures, but either they pushed it aside and it became a hobby, and they used the more analytical or like responsible side of themselves, like get into this. My mom's like in the school system, but my mom also could have had a creative career if I don't know, she was in a different probably time too, but
interesting.
So it's kind of a modeling thing, I feel like, for me, where and we've talked about this on the podcast too, like there aren't a lot of highly successful creatives that we got to see growing up.
Yes.
So inside my family and I think culturally as well.
That's interesting. I struggled to find it may be there, I just may not have processed it yet, you know, like I'm like, is there a story that I haven't considered that's kind of made me create a shortcoming? Or I don't know what it is, if it is there, but I think part of that was also, I mean, it was a it was a huge change to leave a 13-year career. And I know we talked about that previously. So I feel like that was already a really big leap. And I recognize at that time, looking back, there were plenty of stories of family members and everybody who were saying, why can't you just stay in banking and do this on the side?
Yeah,
or
so
I
maybe
really
the story,
think you should get like a master's degree in something else and then do design as another degree. And I was like, I don't want to. I just don't want to. Like,
so I think the story might be you're being irresponsible by pursuing this career.
And there's definitely that. And I have not had everyone in my life be supportive of it. I have had many family members, and here's one thing that did stand out. It's very hard as designers, I've noticed, to celebrate the things that are really great about what we do and what we accomplish when family members and friends don't understand what we do and why things are important all day. Like, to get press is a huge accomplishment. There's this great feeling that comes with it for me to know that editors or other people felt like a project was worthy of being shared with a broader audience. And I'm that level, like, that might be something that normally, like, if you were in another job where you had a project published, that you would like have a little like get together with people and they would celebrate you and they'd maybe share it at a meeting if you were in a corporate culture, and people would have their like woohoo for you moment. And it would be in your little like bag of I'm a badass bitch comments. Like, when you get your annual employee review, it would be like, I had 3 projects that got published this year. But as designers, it's like, well, we just celebrated ourselves most of the time. Or if you have a small company, you celebrate it internally. But my family doesn't go, oh, did you see my brother got published this month in this like design publication? Like, he's a badass. They don't. No,
Mine
they
doesn't
don't.
either.
Wait, can I ask you? Because I feel like a lot of celebrating happens for designers on social media. Do they?
I think among designers.
Yeah, and like, or at least recognition or acknowledgement. Do they?
Some of my family do. They very rarely comment. They're like, okay, like, and then I would say like some of the most vocal supporters are my husband, who is like, for those of you who follow the Hot Young Designers Club or my feed or Rebecca's feed,
1950.
Shaun is always in there, like, and you think he's like a Russian bot, but like, no, he really is like he's really trying to show support, but it sounds like a robot. But he tries.
He's sweet.
He really means it. And my mother-in-law is very supportive, but I don't want to say my family's not supportive. I just think they don't know what it looks like to be supportive of a creative field. And so that makes it hard to celebrate. My family's not supportive
either. My parents are, but it makes them now that you're saying that, I'm feeling it. It makes them uncomfortable. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I was chosen by the editors of Better Homes and Gardens to be a featured designer on one of them challenge.
That's
like,
huge.
That's pretty cool. And I felt kind of like showboaty, like saying that, but
you should.
But none of my cousins sorry guys if you're listening, I love you, and I don't expect this, but it's not how our family operates.
It's too late to come back now, cousins.
I'm sure they're not. But if they're we don't do that. So
that's sad. Because my family's the opposite. Like, first of all, my mom will brag about me to anybody. Like, when I was in Sacramento magazine, every time she was at the grocery store, she had to tell like everyone around her, like, my daughter has a project in this magazine, So, and that is kind of how just my whole family is. Like, and
my parents are. They don't do it to me, but I know my parents are. They have conversations like, I don't know, it's weird.
And I have like aunts who I can't do anything wrong in their eyes. Like, oh, Claire knows everything. You need help with the color. You know what I mean? Like,
that's cute.
So like, Claire, when you were growing up, would people tell you, I'm so proud of you, or you're doing so great? Or like, was that common in your household?
Oh, for sure. We were supported in anything we did. Yeah.
My mom was very supportive and very like forthright with that. But my dad, my brother. Like my brother is like, he's just like, hey, like he's just very like whatever. Like that's just him with everybody.
Thing.
It may be, and being that my mom passed over 10 years ago, and there's less of that influence in our family because I think she was bringing them to a level of expression, and then now that in the absence of that, they're very non-expressive of things. Like it's very rare to hear my dad go, "I'm proud of you," or "Thank you," or it's just kind of like everything's a familial obligation. And my brother kind of does that too, where he's just non-expressive. But Shaun
kind of learned.
Yeah, but Shaun, on the other hand, is like, "I'm so proud of you." Like it took him a while to get there. Of like, you're literally like holding all the spinning plates, like in running a business, in making it successful, in growing its reach, in helping your clients. Like when he reads the testimonials that clients write for me, he's like, "Oh my God, that was really nice of them. Like that's really like they didn't have to say any of that." And he takes it to heart. But I don't feel like in the broader audience, a lot of people are being outright with
I'm going to
that.
put you on the spot. So yesterday I left you a Marco Polo telling you how proud I was of us.
And I'm not asking. Reply.
Did that make you feel uncomfortable?
It did. I'm not gonna lie about it. It makes me.
But you acknowledged when I said I was proud of you. You acknowledged it, Shaun. You accepted it.
Did I?
You did.
I made kind of like a fuss. Like it was like a whole series of like specific Marco Polos.
You were really specific about
like sit and accept
6 months
this.
ago.
Yeah.
Like 6 months ago, this was just an idea. Like we never even would have thought about this. This wasn't even on our radar. We never could have thought about creating this, and we need to own doing that.
Because we went live with Jaipur Living yesterday, and that was a really big like.
It was really exciting,
and you guys
I
both
loved
of you
it.
Did so well.
But I did deflect at the end. We got on the call with their marketing team, the marketing team member after. She was like, "That was one of my favorite ones, and I had so much fun listening to you guys, and I really liked it." And I was like, "Oh, you don't have to say that." And I was like, "Damn it! Like, I don't need to sabotage that and deflect it off. I need to be okay with like if she, whether or not she meant it, whether she meant it or not, even if she's being polite to boost us up." I know, but even if I think maybe that's part of it. We're not used to receiving authentic compliments from a lot of people. And so sometimes you get inauthentic remarks, and we're just like, well, they don't really mean that. They're just being polite. But how about if we just accept that I need to accept they really do feel that way. Even if they don't, what's the harm in me saying they really feel that way and I'm going to accept it? And I'm not being delusional by accepting it, even if they don't mean it. I'm going to invite
more.
Yeah, I'm gonna accept that and be okay with it. And you're right, Rebecca, that I did not know, and I still don't know, because in my head I'm like, we have so much work to do. We have this and that, and oh my gosh, we worked really hard yesterday on that. And we spent a lot of time hustling it out and doing it. And I think part of me was like caught up in the productivity of it versus being okay with the results of that productivity.
Right. Yeah. And I've just been trying to do that. I mean, I'm not always like, but Shaun, you're really good at like being heartfelt and like being grateful for like our friendship, and you show gratitude. But I just wanted, like, I do that a lot with people that when I see that they're having a big experience, like just take a minute and just sit and feel it. Cause like, I know I don't, like my brain's going a million miles an hour. I'm already
go to the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, take a minute, like let's soak it in, feel it. And then,
don't focus on what's not done yet or what has to get done still, but own that you did just finish something really big.
We hit one little plateau, like we're still climbing the mountain, but
yeah.
And I think there's something, I mean, obviously I come from a family of celebrators, not just verbally, but also physically. And I think like a project I finished last July, or this July that just happened, I mean, however you say that. And I had some friends, we were photographing.
Wait, July 2020?
Like 2 weeks ago.
As in 2 weeks ago? Okay.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, I'm so discombobulated.
Welcome to quarantine.
Yes, I was shooting it in July, And my friends came by for lunch and they got to get a tour of the house and we got to have lunch together. And that felt like very celebratory for me. Like oftentimes we finish a client project with something we're really proud of, and then we're already on to the next thing. And so even just like doing little moments like that, I think are important. So
absolutely.
And I'm working really hard to be that as being a mother. Like, I really try to make sure that I acknowledge successes and build her up where I see like she tried really hard and something that I know isn't easy for her, or the effort. Like, I try to celebrate the effort and not the results.
Right. Because you're not like, well, a 12-year-old wouldn't have a problem with that. You'll get there. You're like, okay, you're not like, though. You're a kindergartner.
That's the worst unicorn I've ever seen. No.
Oh.
Looks nothing like a unicorn. I can't wait for art class to start.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go into chapter 4.
I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to preview this. After getting through chapter 4, I still don't know if I'm in the place I want to be to understand my zone of genius.
Same. Rebecca,
like, I'm going to need time with this.
Yeah. Okay, so chapter 4 is about figuring out what you're doing, like physically doing, right?
Yeah, to express your genius. Yeah.
And
I'm not there.
And me neither. I couldn't. Did you think of yours, Rebecca?
Kind of. The Russian doll analogy was helpful to me. I don't have it fully articulated, and I don't know how it translates to like a job per se, but yeah. I mean, it kind of does. But yeah, I liked how he was describing. So I'll do. This is not done. This is just what I was jotting down when I was reading it an hour ago, but. I'm at my best when I'm helping people. Mm-hmm. When I'm at my best, the exact thing I'm doing is helping people articulate how they want something to look. Okay. Like, I can put the vision into words. When I'm doing, oh my God, my computer just closed. When I'm doing that, the thing I love most about, I don't know about, well, what I love most about it is, this is the part that I don't know how to articulate, actually, ironically, but creating designs and work that bring positive energy to people. Mm-hmm. It's like an energetic thing, like I'm realizing, because I can feel how the space, or
it's emotional or feeling based.
Yeah. And making it palpable to the people experiencing it.
I'm having trouble. I'm taking in what you're saying, and it'll probably help me formulate more as we go through that idea. But I think I struggle with that. I
think we need to pay attention during our days when we realize we were in a state of flow. Like, what were you doing?
Right. What was it that made it magical? Like, ooh. Right. That went really fast, or the results of that were great. Like, I think I know of like one moment where it was just like the idea. We talked about it briefly in the past in a episode of the podcast where we talked about one of my sizzles was creating this fireplace concept for a project where originally we were not even going to be doing any of that. And then it was like, can you help us with the fireplace? All the guys are already here working, and we've been wanting to tackle this, and it's ugly. And I had to really quickly develop a concept, present it, and then also work on the like development of how is it going to work? How am I going to execute this and do it functionally and, build it? So I was able to make that come together very quickly and present it, and the client was like, oh my God, like, I hadn't thought about this, and I need a second to think about it. And it was one of those words like, we're going to do this. This is going to be amazing. And I felt so great about that. And I felt like that specific thing felt like a zone of genius moment, because the stars all aligned for me, for the client, for the contractor on a really short period of time. That was like the magic of design or the sexiness of design. And I felt like I was in my zone of genius when that happened.
I mean, I definitely think yours is revolving around problem solving and like creating, I don't know, practical and beautiful solutions. Like you're you have your feet in both sides pretty firmly.
I feel
and
that
you think through that part of it, like
the troubleshooting, the problem solving is definitely
yeah.
like that for me is like helping to remove or reduce pain points for clients in projects is huge for me, whether it's flow of a home or the circulation, or like that's where I walk into a place and clients are like, we really want to spend our money on lists. And I'm like, no, the real problem is that there's no window right there. And they're like, really? And I'm like, that is like just giving all the wrong energy. Like it will feel so different if you just do that. Put your money in that. Or when I feel like that there's some of that. Like I wrote some of that down of like, when have I felt the most magical? It's like during a 2-hour consult when I come up with some crazy idea and the client's like, oh my God, I never thought of that. That's the thing.
Maybe it's like solving problems they didn't know they had.
Right.
Or giving a new perspective, sharing a new perspective.
Right. And
we all solve problems, but it's like what's more, I think solving problems is like the biggest Russian doll. Like it's like what's all three of us solve problems. That's partly what our job is, mostly what our job is. But what is our specific seed that helps us do that? So it's like drilling.
And that's where I have to get to. Because part of that, what's so great about that is that it's so rewarding. Because when you solve the problem, you get to the result and everyone's happy and you're like, oh yeah, I'm the boss. Like I did that. They needed me. They needed my Jedi powers to do that.
Right.
And they couldn't have done that on their own. And that's the magic of a designer. And so I want to make sure, like, is that uniquely me? I don't know.
No,
if that's
the
my
magic
zone
of
genius.
you. Like that was your solution.
Like, yes, you might.
I might have focused on a different
situation.
Well, that fireplace clearly needed some help, but if I solved it a different way or focused on a different part of it, I don't know.
Right.
That thing had a bad haircut. Like, I don't know what happened.
It was rough. It was rough. Like, I mean, honestly, if I had only done, like, if I had just thrown some paint on it, it would have been like, it's amazing. It's beautiful. Because anything would have been improvement. Yeah. But the fact that it all, you know, those moments where just everything came together perfectly and then you're just like, whoa, that's where I feel like I need to reflect. Chapter 4 was really a rough go for me.
Yeah, the what produces the highest ratio of abundance and satisfaction to time spent, that is like a hard one for me to answer.
Yeah.
Because I can do a lot of things, but I can spend a lot of time on them that maybe isn't the best place to spend the time. I don't know.
Right. But then those aren't zone of genius. Those are like maybe zone of competence where you can spend time on them because you're good at them, but they're not necessarily getting you to where you need to be.
Or not. Like, I mean, I can lose 5 hours working on my website. It's not.
I think part of you is like you kind of have fun doing that.
I do, but it's not genius. But time does still slip away really fast. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can get in a flow state with it, but it's not. I don't know. It's not my best. Like
maybe you like the problem
for
solving of it.
Yeah.
Like that's you trying to find a way to problem solve when instead of spending it on like your website, you should be spending more time problem solving for clients or projects.
I was about to say, could it just be a procrastination tactic?
Oh yeah, for sure.
One more obstacle that's stopping you from the positivity.
I had a hard time with my zone of genius too. I obviously thought problem solver. But then something that kind of came out for me is like, I am at my best when I'm with other people. And I think that's kind of a weird thing to say for someone who's solo, and not only solo, but I envision myself as staying solo for a while, you know?
Or let's call it boutique. Like it might be you and one other or maybe two other, but that's not even the best. Like you don't want to manage people.
I don't. I've spent enough of my life managing people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like even just looking back at the past year, like I get the most satisfaction when I'm like either like I love presenting to clients. Like the high when I get from leaving, I like could fucking rule the world on that high. And whereas like I don't feel that way after installation. Installation for me is like a big relief. A weight is lifted. I feel accomplished, but I don't feel like I could do. I mean, I feel proud of myself and all that, but it's not.
Is that because you can visualize it? Like you already know what it's going to look like.
Exactly. Like I literally, I'm very good at visualizing. So I guess that not some things it does. I don't get surprised really at install. So I don't know if that meant I'm just doing the right thing, working with client. You know what I mean? Like, whereas I know
what is it about the presentation? So like drilling into that, what is it about the presentation? Is it like talking through ideas or bringing joy to the client in a space that was giving them pain? Or...
Yeah, I like for them to be able to see like my vision of the space and bringing joy and fun and whimsy and color and stuff to a space that, you know, most of my client spaces start out pretty blah, you know? And so kind of getting them excited gets me excited too. Mm-hmm. So having them get a new perspective on things and get excited about their house when normally they have not been excited or they've been, you know, feeling negatively about their house.
It's infectious when they're psyched for it. And they're like, when are we starting? And you're like, okay, well, don't get too crazy. It's going to be a 2 to 4 month process just to plan all this. But like,
it is infectious though. So I think that's where I get the most satisfaction. And then at the, you know, I do like hearing how happy clients are at the end too. But I think if I could just pinpoint the one place, it's probably at presentation stage.
I feel like you and Rebecca need to share a project manager. So that way you can spend more of your time in those magic making portions of a job and less of the, like it's have you guys read, the titles, I don't even know what it's called, but it's like, the concept is we all have like an emotional bucket and some things take out of our bucket and some things fill up our bucket.
Oh.
And like, so filling up your bucket emotionally or like satisfaction wise and abundance wise is presentations and problem solving and the concepts and like the joy that comes with creating this and the feelings from homeowners. But what, like for me, what takes away from that is I'm really good at project managing, but it is exhausting because that's part of what they're paying me to do is to handle that stress, the process, the flow for them. They're like, that's essentially the trade-off is they're going to pay me to project manage, which doesn't fill up my bucket. I'm getting paid to do it because they don't want it to take away from their bucket.
Have you heard of the phenomenon, I'm going to call it phenomenon, of massage therapists who take on their clients' pain?
Oh. Like they get a bunch of back tension and...
Not necessarily tension, but like pain, like this like terrible kind of yucky feeling. So I've talked to a few about it and they all say like after like a day of massage, like you just have to like go fetal because you like literally pull the energy into yourself and out of them.
I could see that. Like physically they're doing that anyway because it's labor to help someone relax, but then
they
also
said, like,
the emotion.
sometimes they could feel like a really like stressed out person or something will feel like really toxic. So I kind of could see like sometimes that's what we're doing too. We're like taking the brunt.
We're pulling it from them to make them feel calm, to make them feel relaxed. We have to take on some of that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
without becoming
every tiny decision. They don't want it all this. We have to do all
we either protect them from it or like take it off.
So basically we take the paralysis, like the sleep paralysis demon from them, and then it's our sleep paralysis demon.
We're the shield or like
chapter 4 is a hard one for me, and I honestly feel like I'm gonna have to go back and process again, because there are things I
we could
love
talk
doing.
about it more.
Maybe we
Because,
can
like,
revisit later too, is like come back when we've had time to marinate and digest it.
Because, like, I would say, Claire, think about, like, you love the presentation the most versus when you're alone in your office concepting. Like, that's like the true creative part, maybe. But
well, I like that. I
like,
think that I don't like the admin stuff about that.
right. Which they go hand in hand for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think I could ever let go of creative control, but how about we ask ourselves,
but that's your excellence, maybe, but genius. It's like excellence versus genius.
Yes. But okay, so I thought it was interesting. He said, most people have a carefully crafted, well-justified story about why they can't take their big leap. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have one? Or do you have any blocks? Like I have one of my big blocks is control. Like I don't even have a bookkeeper, you guys. I'm going to get a bookkeeper this month. That's something, reading this book. I was like, I can let that go. Isn't that psycho?
Yeah.
I knew, like, after a few months, I was like, oh, I can't do this shit. Like, I was like, I thought I could at first. And then I was like, this is why everybody says you shouldn't. And I really did. Like, and that's why, Rebecca, when you told me you were doing your website still after this long, I was like, oh, but my story is different than yours. So I was like, well, she has a background in that. She's happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the truth is you weren't. And even though you did, you should not be. But that's kind of like, I've been trying.
I have creative control. Like, I have creative control issues for sure.
Yeah. But also I've been trying to let go of that stuff because I don't want to be doing these things. Like, I never really wanted to be a webmaster. I didn't want to be a graphic designer. I don't want to be a bookkeeper. I don't want to be a financial planner. Even though I spent so much time in banking, I've been trying to run from that, like, since I realized I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life, before even figuring out it was design school. So I feel like I'm ready to cast stuff off if I have to.
So what else can you cast off that would, I just feel like if we cast off everything don't like, then we're left with stuff, right? Then what are we left
with? Like, I just brought in a virtual assistant, and it's like, I basically was like, this stuff makes me mad, frustrated, or it sucks. And she's like, okay. And I'm just like, fix it. Tell me how to make it better. What am I not doing that I should? What is your expertise in making onboarding and tracking and reporting? Like, you make this, just make it better. And that's something I got used to in, like, a corporate culture where you have teams of people dedicated to stuff, is you're just like, you know who fixes that stuff? That team. Send this problem to them. They're going to fix it and bring it back to you, and it's going to be great. And I've missed having that in my business, where it's like, give this to them. Let them do what they're good at to make you look good and to make you better.
Yeah.
So do you think there's something that, like, holds you back from taking your big leap? Like, if you feel like you're not doing it?
I feel specifically related to bringing on a virtual assistant to help make onboarding, tracking, reporting, and follow-ups better, because that's a part where I don't want to let down the process. I don't want it to be so dependent on me. Oh shit, I didn't send that email at 3:00 that day. Like, I don't want that pressure. I want the ability to offload those things when something else comes up that I need to put my genius into. I don't want to be coming back going, oop, that didn't happen, or that spreadsheet didn't go out. I want the ability to hand that to someone else so they can do that. And that's why I brought them in. Does that mean, I think that's part of me letting it go so I can do more of the things that make me happier.
So I'm
happy to let them go. Yeah, like, I'm happy to let those things go.
So right now you don't have any blocks then with your big leap? It sounds like it, since you hired a virtual assistant.
I think it took me a while to get to the point where I could even say, like, I need help with someone to do this.
Mm-hmm.
but there's going to be another block right behind. Like, I'm sure there is something else. It's just I've been dedicating mental space to these issues that I haven't uncovered the others yet. There will be something for sure. I mean, not to put that out in the universe, but if someone threw 2 new build projects at me right now, would I be in a place to take that big leap?
Mm-hmm.
No, I would need to, like, that's a
Why
couple
not?
big. Do I want them? Yes. Could I do them? Yes. Am I going to need more help immediately to make them as successful as possible? Yes. And that's part of the adaptability of our businesses is I need to be ready to adapt and pivot quickly.
Yeah.
I
Which
need to
means
be ready
you
to
are
outsource
ready. Like,
quickly.
you are
Like,
ready.
if that happened, I would be like, great, you're going to need an architect. Great, you're going to need a renderer. Great, I'm going to be having an assistance rate in this contract because there's going to be a lot of stuff they're doing. Or I'm going to bring on a procurement team because I freaking hate procurement. Like, but I don't want this to just be about like, what can I delegate? I want it to be about what can I do is the zone of genius, right? Is
Right.
Don't focus on what I'm not doing anymore. What am I going to do more of? That's where I'm struggling of like, what is the more I want to be doing once I've delegated off these things I don't want to do or shouldn't be doing anymore?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I guess I think would it just be getting more ideal clients, more ideal projects?
I think that's part of it. I mean, I think that's, again, the Russian doll is more of those. What are those? Who are they? What types or styles of things do I want to be doing to level up my creativity? What do I want to be saying no to? But that all is leading down to how am I spending my genius?
Mm-hmm.
I need to dig more.
I definitely think I have some worthiness issues. Like, I think that there are opportunities that have come to me or could come that I would like shy from. I mean, I know I'm doing it right now. And yeah, if somebody like, I can't think of who it might be, but like if Mandy Moore approached me, let's just say, I don't know, and asked me to do her house, I'd be like, oh, no, I'm not.
You would? You'd say no?
I think I would think, I can't do that. I'm not good enough to do that. I'm not at that level. And I'm not. But that would be like instantly.
If Mandy Moore wants you. I think I have a
low ceiling.
No, if Mandy Moore wants you, you say yes, Rebecca.
As long as Mandy Moore has a healthy budget to pay you for that.
And what if
her new Tahoe house
watched all your Insta stories and fell in love with you and was like, I want Rebecca to do my house. I want Rebecca to be my friend.
Yeah. I mean, I get leads sometimes that I just like assume like, oh, that's not.
This can't be real.
Happen. Or it's just not going to happen. I downplay and probably deflect and demur because I don't think I can take it on.
It's funny because when I look back at like the past 2 years of my business, that's the time I've been alone, without a partner. And every time I said yes to something that I was afraid and excited.
Yeah.
That's where I've experienced major growth in terms of like confidence in myself or learning new skills or taking my business to the next level. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for, to be honest. Like even the nail salon, that was a commercial project. Like I hadn't done a commercial project in 4 years. Like, yeah. But I think that's kind of what I'm chasing, is that fear and excitement mixed together.
Mm-hmm.
No, because I know that that's where you have the biggest reward.
That's invigorating.
Like, I mean, I feel like I have a mix of clients right now and I love all of them, but some of them, it's just another decorating project. Yes, that I can have fun on, especially the ones with healthy budgets and stuff like that. But those aren't the ones that are like business changing,
Right. Yeah. So it's like when I feel that feeling of Mandy Moore coming to me and the feeling of me wanting to say no, I need to look into that moment of why do I want to say no.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think you're not worthy of it?
I don't know. Yeah.
Especially if the project is like where I'm stuck on that idea, Rebecca, is like, but is that something you'd want to do? Like when we're talking about niching our businesses and like where we want to be, ideal projects, ideal budgets, ideal clients, like all of that. If what you're saying is doing that project is not what you want your business to go to, I totally understand that. But if you're saying it's not where you want your business to be just so you cannot do it,
right,
then I'm struggling.
Yeah. If you're saying no out of fear.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I would be saying no out of fear because any like gaps in my knowledge base, I could hire at her budget. You know, like there's no reason why I couldn't get the help that I needed. Yeah, and sometimes I like, this is kind of a weird thing that maybe is an excuse, but sometimes I feel like it's a visibility thing with like people that look like me or people that are my age being new. Like, I don't know, I always go back to like this mental picture of like good designers are like skinny blonde pretty ladies. Like, do you guys ever feel that?
Oh, constantly. And that's why I get frustrated. And it's not even a read on the skinny blonde designers.
No,
it's like there are plenty of talented skinny
yeah.
blonde white designers, but also, yeah, that's the image. That part of that is like representation. The image we're being sold is that this is what it is, and that like we could dive that off into like media bias. We could dive that off into who they paid to do their PR, and we just see more of them. I mean,
and the more I speak it and the more I say it, the more I'm like, F that.
Sounds
like this
crazy.
is like,
yeah.
Well, this is my time to like show, like be the representation that someone else needs to see. Like,
mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I don't feel that way because think about why you like a space you see on Instagram. Not because the designer is a skinny blonde woman. Like your clients are not hiring.
And no offense to skinny blonde women.
No,
guys,
they're great. Love you.
It's just part of the media
I was once
representation.
a skinny blonde girl, if you can imagine.
Me too.
I never was.
But so like our clients are not hiring us because of what we look like. Like
I don't know. I think I really think that sometimes. I do. Like I don't fit in that world. Like there's certain worlds that I feel like I don't fit in.
Well, but is part of that?
I don't feel that way.
Well, we don't need to dive into that whole issue.
It could be my Orange County showing, like where
that's where I'm going with that. Is like, are these just people you wouldn't want to hang out with based on?
all my friends in high school were skinny blonde cheerleaders. Like I'm.
And would you want them to be your client? Like, is that your reaction? I wouldn't want to work with them.
No, I think I just feel like I never like stacked up. Like I was from the other side of the neighborhood. And it's not like I was, like parents are like firmly middle class, but I don't know. Like I grew up in a really upper affluent white pocket of Orange County.
You just felt like an other.
And Mexican people in that area are very much an other, and it's very much a class situation for the most part. At least when I grew up there, but I don't know. I mean, this is getting like really deep, but
that, and I think that's why chapter 3 and 4 was really like, oh,
but it is ridiculous. Like saying it out loud makes me feel silly. So it's like, okay, don't like, you gotta like say it out loud and face it so it goes away. Like stop letting that be a thing. It's and I'm not helping any other like young like mixed folks.
But isn't this part of why we started this podcast? Was we weren't seeing a representation of designers that we knew, that we were around, that sounded like us. Yeah, sounded like us. We're experiencing the things we were experiencing, and we wanted to show that there was another way to look at things or another way to think about things. And I mean, it's not like it's not groundbreaking to have like a
No.
white gay guy being an interior designer. Like, ooh, surprise, y'all. Like,
Right.
and it's not groundbreaking to think that there are like multicultural people who don't fit everyone's picture of race, ethnicity, body shape, size, gender. Like, that's out there. And I feel like maybe particularly West Coast driven, that we're all in the West Coast, that's a picture that we see. But I feel like designers are called upon to be different, to be unique, to be thoughtful. And then like when I'm at market and I see the designer rocking the giant red glasses or something, and I'm like, you go, bitch. Like, yes, like do something different. Like, oh, I feel like that's what people look to designers to think differently, to be different, to not represent the norm. Because you're not, if you wanted the norm, you could just copy someone else's
I've never
everything.
wanted to be the norm, so I've never strived for it, but I also have never felt like a certain level of success was in reach because I wasn't the norm. I guess that's more what it is.
I think our difference is what sets us apart. And I think the more we highlight why we're different, why you're different, why you're bringing a unique process or background to something, the more it's going to resonate with the type of people that you want to work with, the type of clientele, the type of project. Like, I'm sorry, like for Rebecca, I don't see you just designing the white room type of, I don't want to be derogatory to anyone's design style here.
I like white.
I know, that's what I'm saying though.
I know, I'm not offended.
But like when I hear Rebecca, like when I see the projects Rebecca works on, I don't go, I can count on Rebecca to create a calm, quiet,
layered,
color palette.
Fully,
like,
like
I don't see
driven.
you doing like a Belgian-inspired design, like where it's very like rough texture, off-white walls with, you know, stone-washed linen, slip-covered sofas, or like, I don't see that for you. And I think what makes you different is what's going to get people to want to work with you and to create things you're happy with in your zone of genius.
Yeah, you don't create basic bitch rooms.
I can't.
You don't look like a basic bitch.
You're not. Yeah, you don't look like a basic bitch. The rooms you create are a basic bitch. Yeah.
Like
I know. I mean, on paper, I celebrate all of these things, but it's just the like inner voice that like bubbles up when you're like about to hit an upper limit problem. You know,
an upper limit. Do you guys want to hear what one of the listeners emailed us and shared?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So last week, Tammy wrote in and she said, "Hi friends, this is the 4th reading of the book for me. The first time just gave me a stomach ache and I'm not even sure I finished it. The second and the third time, I was kind of like, yeah, I get it. This latest time is landing differently. This time I'm seeing where I can make changes so I can step into my zone of genius." And I think we're all going through we're like going through her first, second, and third reading because we're having this discussion with each other.
We're pushing each other to think about it.
I just want to disagree. See, her email made me realize, wow, this book is going to land on you differently depending where you are in the process. So if I was still in the market research industry and I was reading this book, I would have been like Tammy with a pit in my stomach the first time.
Yeah.
You know, and now I think this is
true.
landing well. We're ready to do the work. All of us, it seems like we're ready to do the work because we're ready to take the big leap or trying to get ourselves to take the big leap.
Right.
But if you weren't, it would land different.
It would hit you because you're like, oh crap, I'm in this long career. Like for Claire, like, oh, I'm in this market research career and this isn't where I should be. Oh crap, what have I done? What am I going to do?
Way too much to do. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we're going to have to figure out as we head into our next meeting, when we get into chapters 5 and 6, I think it'd be good if we start off by maybe spending a few minutes reflecting on, like Claire and I, like, we still need to figure out our zone of genius maybe and spend some time thinking about that. And maybe more will come to us as we head into chapter 5, because that talks about like, how do you execute it and live it every day? And how do you use that to create success? And then chapter 6 is our next meeting also, where it's like expressing it and using it and making the space for it. So
putting it on your website. This was kind of an emotional journey today, you guys.
We have been through all of it.
I need a
Jesus.
drink after this.
It was a very special episode.
Da-na-na. That's the sound effect of on a very special episode. Da-na-na.
The more you know.
That's what we're having right now. So thank you guys for going through the pathways, because I think we all had some breakdowns and breakthroughs during this.
It was really good. Okay, well, let's get back to our zones of excellence and competence.
Yeah. Thanks, Claire, for joining us for meeting 2. We'll see you for meeting 3.
Oh my God, it's always so much fun.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Rebecca. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining this meeting of the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Check out the show notes there for links to things we talked about today.
We are keeping the conversation going on Instagram, so don't forget to like, comment, and follow at Hot Young Designers Club.
You can find Rebecca on Instagram at Studio Plum.
And you can find Shaun at Renstead Interiors. That's WRENSTED.